Hey everyone, I want to discuss 4 things that I've sort of taken away from the Ukraine-Russia crisis so far. I've been very careful in not jumping in this too soon because we've all been quiet observers and we're also not experts on the topic. But there are things which I feel need to be addressed. Before I go into it though, there are a lot of flood victims in New South Wales and southern Queensland which I just want to talk about briefly tomorrow. I have a number of people up there that are sorting out donation links where if you donate $10, $10 goes exactly to the victims. There's no administration costs. I just want to make sure I get that 100% certain before I put anything out there so I can say I trust them. So bear with me with that. But coming back to the Russia-Ukraine debacle, it's been absolutely amazing seeing how so many people in this freedom movement, especially in Australia, have just been automatically felt qualified to talk right on the stuff that's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Now let me start off by saying, don't trust a thing I say. There's very few things that I am certain about, when it comes to politics, but when I am certain about something, I'll tell you about it. The Russia-Ukraine stuff, not so much. And there's 4 takeaways briefly that I want to run through where I'm definitely certain on the conflict. But in terms of the commentary surrounding this, there's been a lot of self-proclaimed experts that have come out, and I just wanted to make sure that we're sort of on the same page and we keep it real. When it comes to the 4 points that I want to talk about, the first one is, who do I trust? Second one is, war is obviously bad. The third one is, we need to get strong again. And the fourth is the war on net zero. Now, who do we trust in this? I definitely don't trust Putin. I mean, the guy, just look at how he's held on to power. The guy's been jailing protesters in his own country, and some of the lies that he's been making up, over the last few years has been absolutely ridiculous. But let's look at the other side, the Ukrainian side, one of the most corrupt governments we've seen. And, I'm sorry to a lot of the Ukrainians that are in that country. I'm not apologizing, an apologist for Putin. But I mean, your country, it's not exactly the model country. I mean, we saw what happened with Burisma. We saw what happened with a lot of the corruption that's happened in that country. And, a lot of people in my audience, they're very suspicious of the fact that many of the World Economic Forum figures, of course excluding Putin, have been backing Ukraine, just like that. A lot of people that were saying, if it saves one life, we have to lock down. Now they're calling for war and possibly prepared for nuclear war in Ukraine. I mean, have we lost our marbles? I'm really worried about this, guys, because, the speed at which people have just sort of taking the Ukrainian side has been insane. It's almost as quickly as they took to wearing masks. I'm really worried about this because it's sort of this mass formation psychosis, which Dr. Robert Malone has talked about, and it's just happened before our eyes this last couple of weeks. People that I thought were, sort of worked out how the establishment manipulates our emotions. It's just like everyone's forgotten exactly what's going on. Now, I'm not apologizing for Putin. I'm not apologizing for the Ukrainians. I'm still trying to work out what the hell's going on over there. But it's been amazing how this sort of global discussion has taken place, and everyone's just sort of jumped into it. I mean, since when did we take the opinions of the mainstream media verbatim? We don't trust the mainstream media. Do you remember what they did with the Iraq war? Do you remember what they did with us the last couple of years with COVID? All the stuff, we're not bringing the jab passports in, and then they bring them in, or we're not going to do lockdowns, and then they do lockdowns again. I mean, guys, what happened? This is Australia. We copped it, one of the worst in the world. Melbourne, the most locked down city in the world, right on our doorstep, but now we trust the media? Guys, we've got to be smarter than this. I mean, the speed at which people have changed, I'm baffled. I'm absolutely baffled. No wonder I've had to step back and just be like, what's going on? Now, again, I'm no expert on the Ukraine-Russia stuff. I've been trying to educate myself the last week on it, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. I mean, there's been footage from video games. There's been, photos from like 3 or 4 years ago, which are outdated, which have been reused now. I mean, guys, there's a lot of, this is fake news that's been coming out from both sides. Remember this, the first casualty of war is the truth. And what we've been seeing right now it's been blatant fake news. We need to be very careful with how we digest our information. Otherwise, we're going to end up in the same situation, possibly, with the weapons of mass destruction narrative which got people into the Iraq war, including many Australians. Please be careful about this, guys. Check your emotions. Now, again, for the 3rd or 4th time, I don't know exactly what's going on in Ukraine and with Russia. It's just a reminder to check your emotions and to make sure you're not jumping into something. I know people in Australia, they're about to fly over to Ukraine to do, some kind of humanitarian support. I mean, we need to be careful about this, guys. This is getting absolutely out of control. The second point is war. War is bad. It's really bad. I don't like, it's an obvious point, but I hate to see the suffering on both sides. 44 million people, Ukrainians getting smashed, and also the Russians in the army being forced to fight against in some instances, their own cousins, across the border. This is absolutely, people are getting torn apart. And I don't like to see the human tragedy of this. No one does. And I think that, if war can be avoided, it should be. The third point is on defence. We need to make Australia strong again. If there's one thing we've sort of seen from this whole conflict in Russia and Ukraine, is Australia's an irrelevance. We're talking 50,000 troops in Australia, when in Europe right now we're talking about Russia with over 1 million troops. As a country, if you want to deter war, then you've got to prepare for it, and you've got to make sure your enemies see that. If you want war, then do nothing, sit on your hands, and it'll come to you. The world is a mean and nasty place. No one will come and save you. No one will stand up for your values except yourselves. Us Australians, we've got to do it ourselves and be strong again. Our politicians have run the military into the ground with poor planning, underfunding, and injecting it with this woke ideology. I respect our Defence Force, and we train some of the best, but in terms of the volume, we do not have the volume in this country. To make matters worse, the Prime Minister has allowed the Commonwealth to turn into the divided states of Australia, turning the country into a country of snitches the last 2 years. How can you bring a nation together when its citizens are stabbing each other in the back and snitching their neighbours out in the age of COVID? The truth is, the Australian military relies too much on our American allies. If I can quote Jammal, he described the Australian military as follows: "It's tiny, it's brittle, it's not lethal enough, it can't reach out and do damage to an enemy, it's not sustainable in that it doesn't have the reserves, it's fundamentally a one-shot military, and it doesn't have the mass, so it's not big enough. Apart from that, it's going swimmingly." That's pretty depressing, guys. And you know what? It's a reminder that, you've got to check your party's policy on defence. I'm not telling you to vote for the majors. No. My opinion's still the same. Freedom Party's all the way, majors at the bottom. But you need to make sure your Freedom Party has a good defence plan. The reason why a lot of people will not take the Freedom Party seriously this election is because this war has completely made the COVID stuff an irrelevance to a great extent. And what it means is they will not take a Freedom Party seriously if a Freedom Party doesn't have a comprehensive defence policy. So make sure you know what your defence policy is for your Freedom Party, so when people ask you, you can say, yeah, you know what? They did a terrible job in the government on the submarine deal. They wasted billions of dollars, 10 years in planning. Make sure you have these policies ready to go. And then you can say, but you know what? This Freedom Party has this idea or that idea. I don't play favorites, guys, but the Freedom Parties were very good when it came to a lot of the issues that we saw the last 2 years. So I want to see them succeed. And in order to succeed, they need to be taken seriously with defence policy. That's something we really need to see shored up in the next 3 months. This federal election in May, it will come down to that. The fourth thing that's come out of this has been from Nigel Farage. He came out and said this week, I want a referendum for the United Kingdom on net zero. I don't want to see net zero go through. It was very interesting to see the response to that, and I'm sure all of you are wondering, what's net zero? Well, it ties in with the idea about climate change. It ties in with the idea that we need a net zero carbon footprint. We need to get rid of coal. We need to get rid of fuel so that we have clean energy like wind and solar. Now, I don't agree with this idea. I think that the technology there for clean energy is not there yet. I don't think we should have a policy for net zero. I agree with Nigel. And you know what? We need a referendum in Australia about net zero as well. I don't think we should get rid of all the coal jobs. And I think we should be defending our industry. Defence is very important, and part of waging a war and defending your country, keeping it going, feeding the people, is having fuel, having coal and cheap, reliable energy to keep the country going. Europe is finding this out the hard way, and that's how it ties into Russia and Ukraine. Russia has Europe by their you-know-what are in a vice right now. Russia's telling Europe exactly what it can do with energy. Europe can't go like this forever. And so this is a very important topic, and Nigel is ahead of the curve on this, and he's seizing the perfect opportunity to actually turn the tide on the climate change debate. There has not been a more perfect time to turn the tide on the climate change debate in the last 20, 30 years. This is absolutely brilliant, and I think he will be successful just like he was with the Brexit vote. So those are generally the 4 things that I've observed from the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Again, please remember, I'm no expert on these topics. Where there have been opinions, it's backed up with people that I've listened to, talked to, experts in their fields. And this isn't a situation where, you know, I'm trying to tell you guys how things should be. These are just things I've sort of observed from seeing the discussion. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful who professes to know what they're talking about in Europe. This is a very complex situation. Nothing is simple. And my heart goes out to the people that are dying on both sides up there in Europe. I think war is bad. So let's see how it pans out. I'll probably do another episode on this. Remember to give this video a like and a share to get it out there. I really need help breaking through the algorithm. I just got a 1-week ban on YouTube this week, so no revenue for a whole week. When it comes to getting this video out, share it on all the platforms, put it on your story on Instagram. It really helps. And also remember to look out for each other with the floods. Tomorrow I'll be coming out with a video about where best to donate. For every $1 you donate, the goal is 100% of that goes to where you want to go, and that's why I've been slow on telling you where best to donate. Give me a bit. Tomorrow there will be a trustworthy. It's not me that's managing it. It's a group of people that are up there, that are on the ground, that they have eyes there. They're not like Dom Perrottet who drops in for one day and then he flies out. These are people that are there in, day out, mud on their shoes, helping clear out families' houses. I'll let you know where best to donate, and those people will take care of us. I'll see you guys all later.